Welcome into the Sports Buffoons podcast. What's going on out there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome into the Sports Buffoons. Not the studios this time. We are here at Pathlight Brewing Company, based out of, is this Lenexa, Kansas, Tanner?
This is, yeah, I think it's
Lenexa, Kansas. It's somewhere at least close by. What?
It might be Overland Park, honestly.
This is where we're getting the gray area
it's like
of,
that weird
of Johnson
area,
County. But
yeah.
75th and Neiman is where you can find these guys. This is probably my favorite brewery in the entire area, and that is no shame on anyone else around the area, but these guys put out the best quality of anyone that I've come across within I would say a 5-mile radius, I would say. JG, so how are you doing today? We went up to Chiefs camp. We'll get into that here in just a minute, but what's going on, man?
Hey, we're just enjoying a beer over here at Pathlight, and it's a great day. It's a great day to talk about the Chiefs, and it's a great day to look forward to the NFL season.
Absolutely. Here we are sitting August 3rd. Obviously, we made our way up to Chiefs camp today, ended up getting rained out, so we made our way up, got to the parking spot, and they ended up moving the practice indoors. So that was an unfortunate situation that we, as well as many other fans, had to deal with, but it's understandable at the end of the day. I mean, it is what it is, and no one wants to have any injuries, and playing on wet grass is always going to be a downfall of any kind.
You just got to make the best of it, really. Make the best of a trip. It's still an hour up, hour down, so, on the way down, you got to make the best of it.
And on the way down, hey, we got to have some fun, obviously. Went to a couple casinos on the way back down and such, and here we are now, obviously, back at Pathlight. Not everyone gets a shout-out. I mean, gosh darn it. I mean, only Pathlight really does at the moment because everyone else was along the way. They didn't approve of us to be here setting up a studio at their venue. So, anyways, you guys, I plan on going up to Chiefs camp tomorrow morning, so I'm hoping that can be fulfilled and get some things out there for you guys. But
I do want to give a shout-out to the Whiskey Snug.
The Whiskey
Snug?
Snug?
At the Celtic Ranch up in Weston, guys.
The Whiskey.
Solid place, got his card.
Goodness.
We might, I'll send some emails out. Maybe we can get a show up there sometime soon.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That would be pretty cool.
We had, so it was us and a few other friends hanging out for quite a while. It's like 2 hours worth of a bunch of dudes hanging out, talking sports, talking all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
All just hanging out. And the Whiskey Snug in Weston, Missouri is the spot to be. Oh my gosh, that is the most incredible place that we've been to quite a while. And the conversations I think we had were some of the most unique we've experienced in quite a while as friends and as just a group in general.
Yeah. Kind of, range anywhere from college football with K-State to the Chiefs to just different sports talk overall.
Right. And so, all right, here we are sitting here. Obviously, we wish we could report on more from our experience today regarding actual Chiefs camp. But we're now just having to reflect in a lot of ways on what we've seen and heard so far from camp. And I just have to ask you guys a few questions here along the way. But I think that we're starting to see some things unfold that are maybe, making people happy, obviously. Some things are surprising. Obviously, I think that the fast emergence of Sky Moore is awesome for this offense because we've heard nothing but good things about him so far throughout camp. And that's awesome. And Juju Smith-Schuster as well. We're hearing no bad words about any of these guys that are on this offense. Any of the receivers that have been taken into place.
Really, the only thing I've heard bad on the wide receiver aspect is Josh Gordon is dropping his ball. So, that's really the biggest aspect.
Sure. Josh Gordon also probably will not make this team.
He's
at the end of the day.
So he's getting separation, right? But can't catch the ball. It's the issue.
I think there's too many receivers that are good, young, quality guys that he will not be making this roster. And he doesn't play special teams, which Darius Fountain does. And some other guys on this team can and will and do. And we've heard Isaiah Pacheco now is going to be worked in as a kick returner for this team. And that's going to be awesome to see because I think he is probably the most ideal guy to be the kick returner to replace Byron Pringle on this team because I just think his style of play fits so well for that straight line running, runs a 4.37 40. I think he's going to fit in very, very well in special teams.
Really, this year, Isaiah is going to be, I think, Jarek McKinnon from last year. I think McKinnon probably gets cut off this roster just because it's going to be so deep, but I think he fits that role to pick up maybe like a late bloom or something like that going in towards the playoffs.
Yeah. It's a good situation for that guy.
It is.
He's going to find his role within this team, and it's going to stick. And a punt returner, they've been working in some Sky more. Jalen Watson, I think, has been worked in a little bit, the wide receiver. And then, of course, Mecole Hardman, of course, will here and there be involved in it. But, I mean, I think in a lot of ways this team has been showing that they expect Hardman to be a vital piece of this offense. I mean, he's obviously got the most experience working in Andy Reid's system compared to anyone else on this team. And so, to me, it's like, Mecole, like, this is your one and only chance, your last chance to stand out, break out. And, I mean, honestly, I don't want to ask both of you guys, but do you think you could see Mecole Hardman having a 1,000-yard season this year?
Ooh.
Or is there too many chickens to feed?
Ooh.
Too many chickens to feed.
I do think he could have potentially a 1,000-yard season, but going back to your point about Josh Gordon, I mean, there's no way in hell he's going to make this team. And I think anytime we talk about a guy like Josh Gordon, it's always wishful thinking, right? So we've seen what he's done in the past, but when you look at the team like the Chiefs, I mean, there's just too much talent on this team. I mean, maybe Josh Gordon could make it on a different team that didn't have Super Bowl aspirations. And obviously, we're all rooting for Josh Gordon to do well, personally or what have you. But if you're going to be dropping passes, like, it's not going to work, at least for the Kansas City Chiefs. But in terms of Mecole Hardman, I mean, yeah, that's my guy. That's my guy that I told you earlier today that I want to take the next step. I mean, because when you're in a contract year, you've got to do something. And you're either going to make the next step forward or you're going to fall flat on your face. There's no middle ground here. And so I think Mecole Hardman is that guy that's going to make a step forward this year.
In a lot of ways, he has to. I mean, he's finding a role within this team, a very prominent role now, being a veteran of this offense. And I think that we're looking at a situation where it's like this is kind of do or die for his career. If he has a bad year this year, then, I mean, you're not going to be successful probably anywhere. I mean, you're going to struggle anywhere you go after this because the Chiefs won't want to keep you, and you're not going to be able to be sustainable wherever you go. If he comes out this year and has a huge year within this offense, he's then proving himself, and it's going to make him also just a much more prominent role in any other team he ever goes to.
So, I mean, think about it, too. It's a perfect situation for Mecole to blow up this year. Tyreek's gone. Cap space is freed up, right? Juju's on a 1 year. Scantling's on a 1 year. Who else? Somebody else is on a 1 year. So, like, you got a lot of cap space to come into play. If this guy wants a contract and earn to stay in KC with Mahomes and Reid, well, this is the year to do it. There's no reason not to perform, right? Am I crazy about it?
No, I would think so, absolutely.
Perfect situation.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of guys on this team that are kind of have something to prove. I mean, obviously, Juju Smith-Schuster on that 1 year deal, and so far in camp, he's looked really, very good. So that is great news. I think, but also at the same time, I was talking with someone here recently, and they were talking about the fact that just, players, when they're committed to this team with Andy Reid, that they really keep themselves in shape. We don't have to worry about guys showing up out of shape. Yeah. It's not such a thing. Back in some of the areas of even Dick Vermeil or Herman Edwards especially, Romeo Crennel, and some of those areas of our Romeo Crennel. Some of those eras of our Chiefs fandom, we got to witness some of these guys showing up out of shape. And the last one that really did that stood out to me was our Anthony Hitchens that left, obviously.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like, guys don't show up out of shape on this roster. And I think a lot of it has to do with quarterback. I think a lot of it has to do with understanding that you're on a 11, 12, 10, or 11, 12, 13 win team, and you're expected to be ready when it comes time for training camp. Training camp's not here to train you. You need to be ready for training camp when you get here. And I see that right now with this roster. We don't have guys on this team who've shown up out of shape. I think everyone here looks good. My point in bringing that up in the first place was about Frank Clark. And Frank Clark has showed up looking phenomenal. He actually, as a matter of fact, would not be in this brewery right now. It's Pathlight Brewing Company here out of Lenexa, Kansas at 75th and Neiman. He would not be here right now. But
right next to Hayward's.
That's the thing. Is he gave up drinking. He quit drinking. Right next to Hayward's barbecue. But he gave up drinking. He might have even given up barbecue. I have no idea, Tanner.
He might have, dude.
But I think him giving up drinking, being committed, Andy Reid had a long conversation with Frank Clark during this offseason about just sucking ass in a lot of ways. I mean, the guy, I could not stand Frank Clark. I wanted to get him off this roster as fast as possible. And so for me, seeing him now, looking slimmed down, he looks like a different person. If you look at his face, it just looks like a different person.
Well,
I love it. What do you guys think about Frank Clark's renewance as a person?
Yeah, you're talking about things that Frank Clark gave up. Let's not forget the fact that he gave up the Uzis, at least as far as I could tell. He gave up the Uzis. Now he's going to be carrying that around his car anymore. But more importantly, he's trying to help guys like George Karlaftis, our first-round pick, teaching him different moves. And so I heard that he was the last guy off the field the other day with George Karlaftis. You know, George Karlaftis, we don't even know if he's going to be a first-round pick that's going to be ready to go in week one. We don't know if he's got a guy that's going to be a starter that we can depend on in year one. But the best thing I like about Frank Clark is that he was willing to take some time and spend some time with George Karlaftis to help him improve his game. And so, hey, you talk about a guy like Frank Clark, dude, whatever you can give us on the defensive side of the ball, that's gravy this year. Because we got Carlos Dunlap, which we'll talk about later. But, I mean, Frank Clark, I mean, just step up your game a little bit, and we'll take that to the bank any day.
Yeah, I love that. Tanner, what are some of your thoughts?
I'm excited for Frank Clark. I think for the first time since the Super Bowl run, he's actually taken a season serious, a whole off season to play with the season. So, granted, it is a shortened season for us because we didn't go to the Super Bowl, but at the same time, I just think there's a new mentality, a new attitude, and I think it's perfect for that offense or that defense that ended up losing a couple key leaders such as Tyron Hitchens going into play, so and Tre'Davious Ward. So I just think maybe Clark's just on a different mindset, a more veteran mindset, and he knows it's time to play, time to step up, time to be an adult.
Right, which some of us have a harder time with that than others, myself included at times. But I just want to say,
we never grew up.
I told you guys a while back that the Chiefs stat of we only had 10 sacks last year from the edge rush position, meaning defensive end.
Correct.
And then 10 total sacks.
And Chris Jones was in the first 5 of those games.
Last year. So basically what Frank Clark gave us, what Mike Dana gave us, I mean, whatever else came along the way last year. We had 10, and Chris Jones, of course, played some of that role. 10 total sacks last year. And I just think you're looking at a situation right now with obviously the drafting of George Karlaftis, which I still want to see how that unfolds. I'm not sold on him by any means. I think there's going to be a lot to prove, and I refuse to buy into the excitement until I see things put out there on the field. Coming even August 13th, which is the Chiefs' first preseason game. That will help me out quite a bit. But I just want to point out that now with Carlos Dunlap, the guy had 8.5 sacks last year for the Seattle Seahawks and only played 38% of the snaps on defense. So think about that. He only played 38% of the snaps on defense. It was 481 snaps is what we calculated, and he had 8.5 sacks. So put that and assume you can double that if you were to play a normal share of snaps and not be a rotational player. You're looking at a guy that's a 17-sack player at 32 years old. He's now 33. This guy is going to make an impact on this team much more than Melvin Ingram, much more than Melvin Ingram ever did. And people love Melvin Ingram. People loved what he brought to this team. This team with Carlos Dunlap is going to help so freaking much with some of the things that have gone on within the D-line. I'm telling you guys right now, this is probably the best move we could have made, and cheap as hell.
And, I mean, this is a guy, too, that has never Never. I guess besides his first year, it hasn't had less than 6 sacks in the season.
Since 2011.
2011,
I think it was his second year. In fact, I think it was only 1 year of his entire career did he not have 6 sacks.
Yeah, it's just a different animal coming into play, and possibly a better fit, may I say, than Melvin Ingram coming into play.
Yeah, absolutely a better fit in my opinion. I think the linebackers this year are maturing, getting better. And Melvin Ingram to me was always much more suited to be in that 3-4 outside linebacker role where you're playing with your hand up and off the ground basically. Where the Chiefs play more of a 4-3 these days, and Dunlap fits the 4-3 ideally. I mean, he's going to fit in so freaking well.
Two different styles.
Dunlap and Karlaftis have a lot to learn from each other, I think, in a lot of ways. So I'm looking forward to seeing how some of that thing unfolds. And we're not in a situation now where it's like we're looking at like, okay, we just have Frank Clark and George Karlaftis and that's it. And if someone goes down or has to miss time, then you're plugging in a turd, like, not to say he's a turd, but Joshua Kando. You know, you're plugging in a guy who you don't believe in necessarily to be able to do anything. And I hope Joshua Kando can evolve and advance and become an amazing prospect and an amazing player in the field. We just haven't seen that yet. But I think that now we're moving away and not have to worry about that anymore because now we have depth. Depth is the key because now the depth is we can rotate Dunlap, we can rotate Karlaftis, we can rotate Frank Clark. We don't have to rely on them for every down situation. And we all obviously talked about this for quite a while one time, and we all wanted different defensive ends from different teams. We talked about the Jaguars situation,
Josh Allen,
getting the Josh Allen defensive end from the Jaguars, and
the Bears.
Just we were grasping at straws at some point. At the end of the day, we ended up, yes, he's 33 years old, but he's a very, very talented veteran.
Yeah,
he got great value.
I just think when you look at the Chiefs' playoff loss last year to the Bengals, I mean, a lot of people like to put it at the feet of Patrick Mahomes, saying that he didn't do something right in the second half, and that's fine. I mean, that's fair, but the bottom line is the name of the game sometimes is can you get to the quarterback or can you not get to the quarterback? Well, the Chiefs did not get to the quarterback in that playoff game, and I think Carlos Dunlap is a proven commodity who I will promise you, when healthy, he will get to the quarterback, and that's the name of the game from my perspective.
And I agree there, right? So a lot of it was, you had to play Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and all those guys, and if you weren't getting to the quarterback to Joe Burrow, who we saw as a statue in the Titans game, essentially, you're leaving your secondary wide open to have to deal with that kind of crap, right? Your secondary can't cover Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd for 5 minutes while you're trying to get to the Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and I got to give credit to Joe Burrow from that standpoint, because when you're getting sacked in all of those games leading up to the Chiefs game, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? There's no pressure. Anymore? I mean, when we compare this to like the NBA, if you got a good defensive guy playing against you, is trying to shut down and guard you, block your shots or whatever, and then all of a sudden nobody's guarding you. A lot of times the offensive player tends to miss those shots. Joe Burrow, I mean, he took advantage of it. Yeah. And so in that respect, I give Burrow some credit because, I mean, he probably couldn't believe it at that point where he was getting absolutely no pressure from the Chiefs in that game.
So obviously we here as the Buffoons once again had a buffoonery, going up to training camp today during a rainy day, wasting our entire time, which we made the best of, I would say.
Yeah.
But I think that there's some things to take away from what we've heard regarding a few things around camp. Pete Sweeney, of course, from Twitter, who has been around the Chiefs for a very long time now, has put out some things, and he's talked about Leo Chenal, one of my favorite linebackers and one of my favorite picks the Chiefs made here. Just kind of his impact on what he's going to do for this team. So he actually thinks Elijah Lee will get the starting role over Leo Chenal to get-go. So as far as the three linebackers we're talking about, across the board we're talking about Willie Gay Jr., Nick Bolton, and then he thinks Elijah Lee will get the other third spot at linebacker. But his thing is he says Leo Chenal will be the guy he's a run stuffer.
Yeah,
He's
just
primarily
like
a
Nick
run
Bolton.
stuffer. I think he can be more versatile. I think he's more than just a run stuffer. Like, I absolutely think he can be used in multiple different ways on this defense. But as a rookie, I mean, in this situation, I'm like, hey, I'll take whatever I can get him on the field as much as possible. Do you guys see a situation where you could see Leo Chenal basically just having a huge impact on this defense in year one?
I do see him having a huge impact, and if I could make a comparison here, I mean, I kind of feel like he's like the Nick Bolton of last year, where you're not going to see all of the snaps, but as the season progresses, you're going to see more and more snaps. And I don't have a problem with Elijah Lee being the starter, on the depth chart, but for example, Leo Chenal blew up a running play during the team drills today, and it's a learning process for these guys. So, Elijah Lee can be the starter, but Leo Chenal is the guy going forward, and he's going to make some noise this year. So, I'm excited about Leo Chenal for sure.
Perfect comparison. Exactly what I thought. Nick Bolton last year, get us opportunities in throughout early the season, right? Get some snaps here, snaps there. Hitchens goes out for injury about, week 4 or week 5. Nick Bolton steps into a bigger role. Similar situation can happen here. Chenal comes in, gets a lot of playing time, gets to step in when maybe a potential injury happens or somebody gets beat up. Essentially, Elijah Lee might happen, or become a run-down linebacker, just like Nick Bolton was last year. So, he's going to get his playing time. It might be sporadic for maybe the first 5 weeks, but I think after the coaches start looking and seeing, him actually execute on the defensive side the way they want him to, this guy could become a full-time linebacker, essentially, by the time the season ends next year.
Yeah, I'm super excited for preseason, obviously, because we're going to see a lot of Leo Chenal right away in preseason, and he's going to be one of those guys that Andy Reid throws out there for like 2.5 quarters probably. And I see him getting a lot of playing time throughout preseason because he wants to see exactly what he has in Leo Chenal. And, rightfully so, as deserving. And he's also excited. I mean, the pads are on now. Pads got put on a few days ago. And
he blew Rojo up yesterday, and then he had another great tackle inside for a loss of yards today. So the guy, you put pads on the guy just want to hit. That's all he wants to do, is he wants to hit somebody. Well, guess what? That's perfect for what we do, because we just want to hit somebody. So
yeah, so looking at the linebacker corps overall in general, I mean, do you guys feel fairly comfortable with the current depth we currently sit with? I personally enjoy it, and Willie Gay has been known to have some injuries here and there. I think right now, as we said, this is a pretty solid linebacking corps. It's not perfect by any means, but I think it's something we could definitely live with. And I'm happy with the outcome of our draft. I'm happy with the outcome of some of the development we've had from a Nick Bolton, from a Willie Gay, and I don't know if we could do much better than we currently have at the moment.
Yeah, I do have a lot of confidence in this linebacker core, and the reason why is because Willie Gay himself said today that he has a lot of confidence because he forced a fumble today and he intercepted a pass from Patrick Mahomes. And to quote Willie Gay, he said that these things give me a lot of confidence. It's my goal to lead linebackers in the NFL in interceptions this year. And Willie Gay also said that if Patrick throws me an interception, I know that the other quarterbacks in the league will also throw me an interception because they are not as good as Patrick Mahomes. And so it's not just with the linebacker core, Willie Gay. I mean, this is a confidence game. And so that's what I'm looking forward to this year in terms of the linebacker core, the defense, and the team as a whole. I mean, it's a total confidence game, and I think we are seeing some more confidence from these younger players, which we should. And as far as I'm concerned as a fan, I've got a lot of confidence going into the season.
Yeah, no, I think Willie Gay, with his confidence, as long as he can stay healthy, I'm up for it. I like our middle. I like where we're kind of sitting linebacker. One guy that has made a little bit of a splash in training camp, I've heard his name a time or two, Darius Harris, guys, linebacker at Middle Tennessee, third-year player coming into play. I think this is a guy, too, that could help with that depth, build in, just some fresh legs to get out there, but he'll still be able to make an impact on this. So I'm kind of excited to see him come in more into his role now, being a third year in, and see what impact he can make.
So what about the secondary, you guys? I mean, obviously, we saw the departure of Tyrann Mathieu and such, and Justin Reed has been out there, and I think we've seen a lot of guys in the secondary at the moment for this team get some confidence about themselves. And I really like the direction it's going in at the moment. I think there's depth at cornerback right now. Obviously, L'Jarius Sneed is going to be the main man. But I think, the Chiefs drafted Trent McDuffie, and I think he's going to find a role in this team for sure right away as a starter on the field. And when I say starter, I mean, if we're a nickel, most teams are playing nickel all the time anyway. If you're a nickel, you're basically a starter anyway. But I think that Juan Thornhill is another guy there at free safety that has something to prove. And I think he's going to play with something to prove this year too. And I'm curious to see how exactly he comes out with a different kind of energy compared to previous years where Tyrann was the top dog. He was the one you didn't want to go over or overstep your boundary as a leader of the team because he was the leader. Now on this defense, they need someone to really step up and become that leader. And I don't know if it's going to be Thornhill necessarily. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if it's going to be Chris Jones. I don't know if it's going to be Nick Bolton. I don't know who it's going to be exactly. I don't know who's going to be the one to replace.
Frank Clark.
Which that's a stretch in my opinion, Tanner, just based on Frank Clark's history. But I don't know who's going to be exactly. I'm curious to see who stands out the most because Juan Thornhill's been very outspoken during his offseason, and he talked about basically wanting to lead the league in interceptions or whatever. Or, he's had a big expectations of himself in a lot of ways. And I'm just curious, secondary-wise, where you guys see some of these guys fitting in because the Chiefs have made many moves over this offseason to see who can fit in. Obviously, getting the Texans.
Lonnie Johnson. Oh, Justin Reed.
No, Lonnie Johnson. I'm talking about cornerback Lonnie Johnson. Grabbing him through a trade.
Yep.
But I just think there's a lot of bodies in this situation, and there's going to be some guys that are cut. Obviously, the corner. What am I thinking about? Buddha.
DiCaprio Boodle?
Nah. Well, he's never been a guy that's on my mind in the first place. But not a Buddha Baker, but
Buddha Baker. DeAndre Baker.
DeAndre Baker. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, guys. We might have had a couple beers. DeAndre Baker is the guy to me that's out. I don't see him on this team at all.
No, I don't see him on.
I see him off the roster. I think he's going to be cut.
Yeah, I would just say in terms of the secondary, we always talk about this year's Chiefs team having a lot to prove on both sides of the ball, and the secondary is no exception. You got a lot of guys that are going to be looking for contracts very soon. So, L'Jarius Sneed, Juan Thornhill, even a guy like Trent McDuffie, there's a lot of people out there that thought that the Chiefs should not have drafted him. Now, that's not going to be anybody on this show. But Trent McDuffie also has a lot to prove, and so it's a prove-it year for a lot of guys. But I feel pretty good about the secondary.
Yeah, I feel just as great. I believe DeAndre Baker is going to be gone. I do believe you there. One concern I do have, Rashad Fenton, who's been on the PUP list for all preseason camp. I don't know what the main injury there is. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it doesn't sound like he could start essentially this season, from what I'm hearing.
That's going to be a problem.
That's going to be an
Rashad
issue.
Fenton's been a very vital piece of this defense for the last 3 years, and losing him for any amount of time will definitely hinder this defense.
So basically, you're going to be looking at guys like Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, L'Jarius Sneed, and Deion Bush. Basically,
Deion Bush is a safety, but he's more of a special
defensive
teamer.
back, safety, corner.
We're talking about corners right now, and that's the thing is we need Lonnie Johnson to step up, a guy who in a lot of ways has all the physical traits you want in a cornerback: big, tall, lanky,
6'2",
fast.
210,
He has the physical attributes that you would want in a cornerback. He just has not put it together yet, and the Chiefs took a chance on him. Also, he played for a really shitty team. And I don't know if I can say that on air, Tanner, or not, but I said the word shitty. But
let's keep it PG now.
Okay. Well, so anyways, that's my point. Is he played for a horrible team, and it makes it to where it's going to be difficult to see how this guy pans out because he's now on a well-coached team, good roster. He's not now being relied on to be the guy to do anything. Where with the Texans, it was a struggle. I mean, you're a bad coaching staff, bad situation. You're going to be targeted quite a bit. And he failed in a lot of ways.
How do you feel about having two rookies start, or not start, but essentially be playing on the cornerback side?
I've already told you guys way back. When we drafted Trent McDuffie, I said we drafted a nickel corner. And guess what? We got a nickel corner. That's what he is. That's what he will be.
So while we are on the subject of cussing, what's Rashad Fenton's deal? Does he have an injured cock, or is it something else?
You made me bleep out a bunch of crap.
Good thing there's a beep.
You don't have to bleep that out. That's not actually a cuss word.
Well, in Tanner's mind, it is.
And I'm looking it up here.
I don't know exactly what the situation is at the moment. Obviously, it's something that if it's keeping him out for weeks going into the season, it's a severe thing.
All right. Well, while he's looking that up, can we talk about Sky Moore a little bit? Because
Sure.
he did catch a touchdown pass during the red zone drills today. So, I mean, what's you guys' outlook on Sky Moore? Because I believe that he's a guy that is going to be ready to contribute in year one. And a lot of us weren't necessarily sure if he would be ready to contribute in year one. But I personally think that you're going to see some Sky Moore this year.
I never once questioned that he could contribute right away. My problem with taking Sky Moore at the time was that George Pickens went 3 picks ahead of him. I wanted George Pickens all along, and George Pickens is my ideal prototype outside receiver. Sky Moore, though, will fit in phenomenally on this offense as a slot receiver. He is going to be a basically pro-ready type of a receiver, or route runner, too. And right away out the gate, should probably catch somewhere around 60 to 70 passes.
Is it fair to say that if you're a wide receiver and you have a name like Sky Moore, that the sky is the limit? Or am I taking that a little bit too far?
It sounds like you're very cheesy, which makes sense for you, considering how much you like cheese.
That's true. I do like to eat a lot of cheese.
Rashad Fenton injury was a back injury from last year, which he kind of played throughout the season. He had a surgical procedure done on that, and Beach, as of May 3rd, was hoping he'd be ready for training camp. This is as of May 3rd.
May 3rd?
May 3rd. And it was, at that time, they thought it was more within the shoulders than it was an actual back injury. So, but obviously he's not ready, so obviously there's more going on rehabbing side.
So he's Ben Simmons is what you're telling me
Day
right
to day.
now. Never going to play.
He'll play.
All right.
I hope he plays.
All right.
Fenton's a big part of this
Fenton's
defense.
huge.
I think he's a great
a big
corner.
deal.
Great
Kind of a big deal.
attitude and just such a great corner there.
Anyways, the Sky Moore thing, I'm a big fan. I like what he's going to provide to this team, and they've actually used him as a punt returner so far in training camp. So, a little update on that, but nothing to worry about.
Remember, Sky Moore though led basically college football in yards after catch yak. So this is a guy that if he gets space and he gets open, he's going.
Which, as we know, Travis Kelce, yak is important.
I mean,
because Travis Kelce is the best yak tight end of all time.
Well, that's great. I mean, if you've got a coach like Andy Reid, let's get the mug some space to work with.
Well, at the end of the day, the West Coast offense is based all around that anyway. The West Coast offense, traditionally, at the end of the day, we go back 15 years ago, it's based around a short passing game and yak. Spacing, getting space, and then allowing talented players and athletes to run free. That is what the West Coast offense has been all about. And another guy I want to point out, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, obviously a part of the Chiefs offense now.
Yes.
He actually has had the highest yards per catch in the NFL since 2018. So 17.5 yards per catch, something along those lines, or close to that range. That's the most of anyone in the entire NFL based on a 50 catch minimum.
He also has a fairly low drop rate,
right?
As far as I know.
I mean, is this a guy you guys think that could actually end up really breaking out with the Chiefs, even though he had to play with Aaron Rodgers and everything looked good with that? I mean, how can you fail with Aaron Rodgers? And he didn't fail, but is this a situation now where you have a guy who's still young and this is maybe his opportunity to really shine? He's 6'4", guys, runs a 4.3, and has great hands and has the best yards per catch in the entire NFL over the past 4 years. Are you kidding me? That's the Chiefs' number 2 target right now in this offense.
Dude, I love MVS, and I love Juju because the guys don't drop the damn passes, and that's the bottom line. I mean, you don't want a guy that's got a high drop rate. So, and that's what I like about Juju and MVS is that they don't drop the damn passes.
I don't know. I heard. I'll look it up real quick here. But Nick Botkins, co-host with me on Mondays, Green Bay Packers fan, says MVS has stone hands.
Stone hands.
Stone hands. He's a stone hands.
I don't know if I've ever heard that.
That's what he keeps telling me.
I would have to hear.
I'm gonna look up the
resources
drop rate
on that one before I make any judgments, but. I don't know if I've heard that before.
So his 4 years in the NFL with Aaron Rodgers, his catch percentage is 52, 46, 52, 47.
Tanner, I want you to understand, catch percentage does not relate to drop rate. Drop rate and catch percentage are
I'm
different
just telling you
things.
what the catch percentage is.
Okay, continue.
So I told you.
No, but
give me the damn drop rate.
I'm looking for
That's my point. Catch rate and drop rate are 2 different things.
I know, I'm looking for it.
And Marquez Valdes-Scantling was primarily used on deep running routes for the Packers.
Correct.
Which, Tanner, listen to me. Deep running routes are also going to end up correlating with having less accurate passes.
I mean, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers.
I know we are.
Come on.
I mean, we're not throwing quick screens out to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Like, that's not what we're talking about. Remember, the guy who's been a deep threat all along. My point is, catch rate percentage is not correlation with drop rate percentage. I don't know if he's coming up with that, or if Nick, as you're talking about, is coming up with him having stone hands because of that stat.
I'm just saying,
because if that's the case, that's completely false and inaccurate.
I'm just saying, if he had a low drop rate with Aaron friggin' Rodgers, probably gonna be the same thing with Patrick freaking Mahomes.
Oh, I want to make sure we get the catch rate percentage.
Yeah, I'll look it up
well.
here. I'm trying to find it.
If you come across that, please speak up, because I have not heard anything about that as far as the drop rate, which is what.
I don't know. Yeah.
So what about
catch rates? Just remember, catch rate's different than drop rate.
Nothing here.
0 drops, Tanner. It's a 0 drops.
So he can't be a stone hands guy.
No, he's not a stone hands guy. I think maybe Nick might
butt
have looked up the catch rate.
You think Nick's
which
butt
is
hurt?
not the same as the drop rate.
He's butt hurt.
Potentially, I don't know. You tell me.
Nick, your butt hurt.
Nick might be. I have no idea, man. You tell me. That's your guy right there. So
what?
Nothing against Nick. Nick, we love you. I just think that you were maybe out of line on a stat like that you were throwing out there, because that was inaccurate. Anyway.
All right, so he's not going to drop. The bottom line is not going to drop the damn passes. So moving on, guys. What do you think about Noah Gray? I know that he caught several passes today. Do you think he's going to be a significant factor in the offense this year?
I want to say significant by any means. I think he will be more of a, option going into play this year. But he'll be more of an option when Jody Fortson's not on the field, which might be more than we may think right now, because he is out of training camp again, coming off his injury. But I think as long as Fortson's injured or on the bench, then Gray will get his opportunities in, and I think he will. You will see an incline this year on Gray going into play, but I don't know. I wouldn't say like a spectacular impact.
Yeah, no. Honestly, there's too many weapons now at wide receiver. Too many guys that are equal, and I think the Noah Gray situation is like, if he has to come in and play, that's fine from every once in a while. Like maybe 5% of the snaps on offense at the most. Otherwise, I mean, this is Travis's team. This is Travis's
Don't forget, Blake Bell's still there, blocking tight end number 2.
Blake Bell,
he's still going to get his
part
snaps.
of the mix. Jody Fortson. Like, honestly, Noah Gray, as much as he fell into a wonderful situation, being drafted from Duke as a rookie, like, he also found himself in a very rough situation, because you're not going to take over Travis Kelce. Also, you're battling against a super talented Jody Fortson. And then also, the best blocker from 2 years ago, Blake Bell. Like, you're just in a rough situation if you're him. And as well as the receivers got better on this team over this offseason. So, I mean, we're looking at now, not Tyreek and then Byron Pringle. No, we're looking at a whole, my favorite word, plethora of receivers on this offense now.
I believe
And
it's
there's just not room.
pronounced. It's pronounced
Plethora.
plethora.
Plethora. I like to say the word. I like to say a plethora. That's the way I like to pronounce it. But, anyways, you guys get my point. There's just too many mouths to feed on this offense. I can see Noah Gray. Let's pretend like everyone's healthy all year long. I see Noah Gray getting somewhere around 12 catches for the whole season.
Fair.
At the most.
That's fair.
That's my input on him.
So,
Nothing against Noah Gray. I want people out there to understand. Like, it's nothing against Noah Gray. It's just the situation he's in doesn't make sense for him to get targets.
So, I mean, do you see that as a wasted draft pick, or are they just conditioning him to take over for Kelsey?
You need to have depth. The whole point in drafting him in the first place was to have depth for in the case of an emergency of a Travis Kelce injury, because obviously we're not all perfect and prototype, and we're never get injured. At some point Kelce could get injured. Of course, we need someone who can fulfill some of that route running role. And Noah Gray is a good route runner. Noah Gray is a good receiving tight end. He's a better receiving tight end than Blake Bill, as a matter of fact.
But do you see him as the heir apparent to Travis Kelce?
No.
Because here's the thing. By the time Travis Kelce's done playing football, which could be 36, 37 years old, at that point Noah Gray is going to be 27, 28. It's like you're not going to be like, oh, you're the replacement.
He'll be on a different team.
Exactly. We'd have already found a different replacement, younger, a 22-year-old tight end. That's what the Chiefs would have done at that point. So, yeah, I don't see him like replacing Kelce.
I don't see it either.
So, and guys, like I said earlier, I'm planning on going to camp tomorrow morning to kind of make up for what we missed out on today, which is super unfortunate. I wish I could just bring you guys both with me, and I wish life was that simple, basically.
Right.
And we picked a bad day.
If you like and subscribe and follow, it could be that way someday.
It could be that way, where we do this full time for you guys, where you just be Buffoons all the time and drink lots of beers and go to training camp all day. That would be ideal of our situation, of course, but we're not there. So I plan to go down there, and I'm going to get a lot of footage and put together a kind of a day in the life video for all you guys, you fans out there, and I think it's going to be badass. But what are you guys looking forward to going forward, going into the first game of preseason? Who are you most looking forward to watching coming up August 13th? Chiefs' first game.
First game, I mean, it's all about Mecole Hardman. Like I said, I want to see what they're going to use him as, because I know, whether, just in the preseason in general, not necessarily the first game, but I want to know, is this guy just going to be a gadget guy for his whole career, or is he going to be a real wide receiver? And so that's what I'm looking forward to seeing the most in the preseason.
That's a fair comment. I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more of Deshaun Watson. He was a guy that has stood out to me, obviously, over the past few years. And he's an undersized defensive tackle, basically primarily used in just pass rush roles only, which, hey, everyone has their niche. And I think he's a guy that can find that niche within the defense to be used on passing downs on the interior next to Chris Jones. I just think there's a chance to make him a pass rush specialist.
And that was another guy that got some teachings from Frank Clark. You see him take down or basically get through Trey Smith twice?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Made him look silly.
Yep.
That's a big guy to make it look
Wow.
silly. So, my guy here is going to be Jalen Watson, Washington State. We drafted in, I believe, the 6th round, cornerback. I'm excited to see him, see how his impact is he's going to get a lot of playing time throughout preseason, and especially the first game. And I'm just excited to see exactly what his impact is. Big guy going into play. It's a position that we need some solid depth in, and I really liked him when I was on Let's Talk Sports doing some Houston Texans stuff. I really picked him out, so I'm kind of excited to see exactly what he may look like going into play.
Yeah, my other one is Leo Chenal, of course.
Of course.
Super excited.
I don't want to be obvious.
Our most viewed video here on our YouTubes is Leo Chenal highlight video from Wage War music video. So definitely go check that out if you have not. Type in Leo Chenal on our page, or just go to our videos. It's from like 2 or 3 months ago, and I put that out there, and it's a pretty badass video. It's a lot of fun to watch, and it's one of those things that gets fans hyped up about Leo. Well, anyways, you guys, GG, do you have any further things you'd like to talk about, or how are we feeling?
I just don't think it would be a complete show unless we talked about the Deshaun Watson ruling. Okay, and so obviously I want to get you guys' take on this, but my opinion is that the problem with the whole thing is like so many people have their opinions out there, but guess what? None of your opinions matter. The only person's opinion that matters was Judge Sue Robinson. It is not my job, it is not Tanner or Mike's job to come up with the ruling. It was Judge Sue Robinson's job to come up with the ruling that there will be a 6-game suspension. So whether you agree with it or not, we're not going to discuss that here, okay? This is not a political show, it's a sports show. The bottom line is that was her job. She came up with the ruling. It's 6 games, and we need to move on. What shocks me about the whole thing is the amount of time that the media wasted on speculation, whether you're talking about ESPN or whatever outlet you were looking at. They wasted so much time trying to guess what was going to happen in this case when if you guys would have been listening to this show, the Sports Buffoons, you would not have had to have guessed. If you look back at the JG 3 to 4 weeks ago, I personally told you that this is a 6-game suspension. That was not my prediction. It was a bona fide fact because I knew the same way that a lot of people knew, but it was not widely reported that Deshaun Watson would be suspended for 6 games. The Cleveland Browns knew about this before they even signed Deshaun Watson. The other teams that were vying to try to sign Deshaun Watson also knew about the fact that, hey, if you guys are out there and you think you want to give this guy a big bag of money, just know that he's going to miss 6 games. That was not an estimate. That was an exact number that we told you on this show. And so it kind of humors me, the fact that we wasted so much time trying to speculate that, oh my gosh, what are they going to do now? What are the Browns going to do? Oh my gosh, they got to go get Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh my gosh, they can't go without a quarterback for a whole year. It's just like it was such a waste of time to listen to these people try to speculate. And meanwhile, the Cleveland Browns knew all along. Like we don't need Jimmy Garoppolo. We have been told this was a backdoor handshake deal by the NFL with the NFLPA that everybody knew, that it was just going to be 6 games. So there's no need to go out and get a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo.
It wasn't a backdoor deal with the NFL because Roger Goodell just came out today to say, hey, we're appealing this and we want you banned, essentially.
So
it can't be a backdoor.
It is. It's a sideshow.
It is a sideshow.
Dog and
I will
pony
say
show.
What Jason's talking about is correct. Me and him both called this out a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he specifically said 6 games. That was his prediction, or maybe he had some inside info. I don't know. Well over a month ago, before all this came down, it was 6 games. And honestly, like in a lot of ways, we don't need to get into it, but there's reasons you could argue either way, where it should be 0, or it could be a full year, depending on how you feel about the way things came down.
I'm very surprised if the NFL, like you said, is going to appeal this because
they did. It's official.
I understand that, but the NFLPA came out and said
they're going to sue them.
The NFLPA said right from the get-go, we are not going to appeal this, and that's what made me think that this was a backdoor handshake deal, that nobody was going to appeal it, which makes me think that even if the NFL does appeal it, I still think it's a dog and pony show right from the get-go.
But they are appealing. It's not if anymore.
That's
fine.
It
is official.
They're appealing it. But
that's fine, but he's not going to serve more than 6 games. In my opinion, it can only go down. This will not go up.
No.
You can mark my word right now.
Roger Goodell,
it can only go down.
Roger Goodell, in the end, has the final word. And he could say, forget you, Robinson. Take the lawsuit
Roger
from the PA.
Goodell... look at me. Roger Goodell does not have the balls
I also
to make
want
that
to
decision.
make sure
No,
we
he
all
doesn't.
He's the one who had to make the call.
That Sue
Robinson.
was
Judge Sue
appointed
Robinson.
by the NFL.
NFL and the NFLPA.
By the NFLPA. So this was a person who's already working with the NFLPA.
Correct. And now, because of this, Roger Goodell can come out and say, hey, I'm not listening to you, and take the lawsuit.
My question then is, what's his reasoning? If he wants to add on more, what's his reasoning for it?
Because he's embarrassed by his league.
you can be embarrassed, but you can be embarrassed by a lot of things.
And he's embarrassed by some of the punishment.
Can you be embarrassed by
He doesn't
facts?
agree with it. Hey, he doesn't agree with it.
Because what I've seen in this situation is we lack a lot of facts.
So if you go into Bob Buffoon and Bodkins, we had Wojo on, Law 101, Jack Vice. He's this guy's a lawyer. He's dug into it. We went 59 minutes with it, and he's essentially said that Judge Sue Robinson admitted in the paperwork of everything that she had to read that there was something was done wrong, aka why the 6-game suspension came into play. She didn't think that there was maybe enough for a full year, but there was stuff that was wrong. Sexual assault was in there. In some of the paperwork, you have to go read. You have to go listen to him to get the full details.
Well, we had one woman accuse him of ejaculating onto her face and tits.
I think he actually went over that one in his.
So I'm just saying, like that was the thing. Like that was something one woman talked about.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that I don't know necessarily if we want to call it assault, but I think there was definitely sexual allegations going on. I think more of it was mutual than what wants to be played out.
It probably was,
and that's part of what my issue is.
So here's
this
the thing.
More mutual than we want to pretend it. As this guy just running around like a wild man, getting massages and jacking off everywhere.
30,
I don't think that's what we're running into.
I have to bleep that one out.
30
freaking massage people, right? And he was, again, watch it Monday, but essentially Wojo went down the way he started with like his main people. But then he started going into Instagram and started getting less experienced people because he wanted, and it would bring them in. So it's almost like a predator method into play.
Here's the thing, guys. Like, we can debate about this all day long about whether or not you think Goodell has the balls.
He's going to do it.
To change the amount of games that Deshaun Watson will miss. If he appeals this and it goes to a third-party arbitrator, this will create a firestorm. Do you know why? Because Deshaun Watson, while this whole legal process, if it keeps going on,
correct,
if people appeal things, if they would have just not appealed it, he would have not played in week 1. Guess what?
He'll
if
play.
They appeal this shit,
so
bleep that out, he will be playing in week 1. Can you imagine the firestorm that's going to cause if he's on the field in game 1? Nobody's going to care.
When's
he starting
play?
Week 1.
You think he's going to play week 1?
Nobody.
If Roger Goodell appeals, which he did, right? So Deshaun Watson in the PA will then sue Roger Goodell for going back on it.
Sure.
That means Deshaun Watson plays.
Dude,
it's free.
Nobody will
to
care
until further down again.
Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care about Roger Goodell's decision to appeal it or not. If that guy's on the field in week 1, you will see a firestorm like you've ever seen before.
If Goodell does anything in this situation, it's to save his own ass.
Correct. But this is also going to cost.
He's got to let it go.
This is going to cost Deshaun Watson money, by the way, guys. He's meant for this year to be suspended for the 6 games to a year. And that's what his deal is, why his contract's based that way. Starting next year, he starts getting, I think, like $40 million or whatever it is.
I've heard
that costs money.
I've heard that contract is backloaded, and he's going to lose maybe $400,000, which is a drop in the bucket compared to the rest of that contract.
It starts next year with all the big money starts happening. If he's suspended all next year, that's a huge chunk of his contract gone.
Yeah,
so
we'll see what happens.
There's a lot to this.
All I know is that 6 games, he's not really losing that much money at all. But by the same token, if Roger Goodell really truly wants to appeal this thing, you are at the risk now of putting Deshaun Watson on the field in week 1, which will cause a bigger firestorm than you think you're trying to prevent now.
We have Browns fans right now lining up to get his autograph. So it's not going to unless help his cause by any means.
I mean, just think about it too, right?
Keep him off the field.
He comes back week 7. Guess where he's in? He's in Baltimore.
In Baltimore.
That's going to be horrific for him alone.
Hey, I like Jacoby Brissett as a quarterback. So if it comes down to Jacoby Brissett carrying them for 6 games, I still see that team being like a 4-win team.
It's a 3-3
right
there.
3-3, 4-2, whatever. During that time period, that's something around that range anyway. That's what I foresee.
Yeah, that's what we talked about Monday.
Brissett has always been a very good game manager. And I saw him do that with the Patriots. I saw him do it with the Colts. And I could definitely, with this running game, see him doing it with the Browns. So we'll see how things unfold.
If you guys want more insight and stuff, go check out our Monday show, Buffoon and Botkins. We have Wojo on, 59 minutes of going deep inside the cases, deep inside the whole the 6 games. And he just broke it out. I let him talk, Nick let him talk, and it was actually pretty phenomenal how much data he had.
You guys had a legitimate lawyer attorney
on
your show
so
this past
go
week.
Check it out. It's right at the start of the show, 59 minutes.
That's something that honestly I have not sat there and listened to the entire thing he had to say yet. But that's something probably more people should probably spend more time listening to and going to check out that episode, because I mean you're talking with an actual he does this for a living.
This is
right?
a guy that does that.
He does that for a living,
Yeah.
and he enjoys this case because it gives him a reason to talk about a sports athlete.
He's a Browns fan,
and he
so
also
this
knows
is
the
even
ins
now
and
it's
outs.
about his team.
He knows the ins and outs
It has to do
of
all
how
that.
this all came down, and
Yeah.
not just like speaking from emotions, which is what 99% of you Twitter users out there do. So, anyways, that was getting emotional. I'm talking.
Hey, screw you, dude. I'm emotional. You coming after me on the show live? What the heck?
Well, if you want to be emotional, you can be emotional tomorrow when I'm going up in St. Joe for a Chiefs game, because I am sending my ass up there once again, because today was unfulfilling. Today was sad. Today was we got to go to the casinos.
It was fun
so we
and
got
all,
to do
but
these things,
still.
but we didn't get to see no Chiefs, and that's the sad part for me. So for me, I want to see my damn Chiefs. I am taking another day off work, which means I'm going to go up to Chiefs camp to get some footage for you guys. It's going to be here on this channel, absolutely. And I'm putting together a badass video for you guys to watch as well. It's the day in the life of going to Chiefs camp. These guys will be included too, even though they aren't going to be there tomorrow. They're going to be included in that video I'm putting together, so it's going to be awesome to put together. Trust me, guys, it's going to be something you guys want to see. So, well, before we wrap it up here, do you guys have any final thoughts before we get done with here at Pathlight Brewing Company at 75th and Neiman?
Yeah, guys, so Saturday, Let's Talk Sports. Check us out at 11. Nick and I and possibly Jason will be on. Then Monday night, Buffoon and Botkins. Maybe a Chiefs episode from Mike this weekend.
Are you calling me out right now, Tanner?
I've been calling you out for like 2 weeks on Buffoon and Botkins.
True.
So.
That's true. I'm going to get that going.
So we got
Selling the Kingdom is on the way.
We got some solid stuff
coming.
now, right? I got new setup for our Buffoon stuff, and I'll get him taken care of now on his side, so he can now give you guys some content for Chiefs. So there's that going on. Then we'll be back here on Wednesday at some point as well.
Yeah, for the Saturday show, I'm surprised, but I guess that the NBA season is not over yet, so we might have an NBA topic for Saturday's show.
It's still going.
So,
I
anyway,
am
guys,
not talking to your ass about NBA.
he's not going to talk. But anyway, guys, like and subscribe, and love you guys.
And you guys will not regret subscribing, because you'll be seeing Chiefs news coming out all year long here. Settling the Kingdom is what Tanner's talking about, giving me shit about here for a minute. And I'll be on there every single week as time rolls on throughout getting into the season. The Chiefs Week 1 game obviously coming up here in a week and a half. I will be having a lot of thoughts about that and putting it on my Settling the Kingdom show, as well as my drone footage. So drone footage is on the way as well. So lots of that stuff, as long as I don't crash into any more trees. So we'll see how that unfolds.
And don't smoke any more trees either.
Smoke
while
any
you're
more
at
trees. Don't smoke and drone at the same time. It's a bad idea. So with that said, you guys, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.
Out.
See you guys.